with a Catherine Pooler Stamp of Approval stamp set. I've had it in my stash a long time. I think it was one of her first stamp sets with the Stamp of Approval box. This one's called Lovely Flowers, and I used some colored inks from my stash. I used several different colored inks, greens, grays, aquas, orange. I did use a like berry color. I didn't end up using it in my card, but here I was just doing some stamping on some scraps. Looks like a couple of leaves and this like branch, and I don't really know why I only did some of them first, but I think it was because I was having trouble getting my paper to stick down with my magnet. So here I chose to do this larger one with the orange, and then I used a Mama Elephant ink to do this burgundy color, and I did kind of also get the burgundy color on the orange flower, and I made sure I did that every time I stamped it because I didn't want that super bright orange, but I wanted orange. So here I was just stamping multiple times on the scraps that I had. Wanted to make sure that I had plenty of flowers to create a really pretty bouquet kind of thing. I was channeling Nicole Spore when I was making this card. She always makes the most beautiful little floral like bouquets or bunches with the cute details and the colored stamped flowers, and um, I definitely was very influenced by her style. So here I was using a Hero Arts, um, more like an aqua color. I don't even remember. I think it's Tide Pool maybe or something like that. And then Altenew, I definitely got. I have a drawer full of colored inks. I know lots of people have tons and tons of them. I just have a single drawer. It's not even all the way full. Um, it has a few in it. So I was getting them out and using them. I have my favorite things. I think they used to come in like card kits. So I have a bunch of little cubes from there. And then I have a couple of Hero Arts, a couple of Lawn Fawn, a couple of Mama Elephant. I have some old Amuse inks. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, and a few Altenew inks. That's about it for my colored inks. I do have some new Pink and Main ones. This is an archival ink, I think is what it's called. It's a Ranger ink, I think, and it's a gray. So I used that. Um, I wanted these um, colors to be kind of muted, and except that orange is pretty bright. So here I was just taping down all the dies. And I don't know if you've ever received the box from Catherine Pooler. I don't anymore. I think I only got it one time. Um, but it was really well worth it. I use the dies that came in the kit often. I like that tag die, that arrow kind of die that's over there is really neat. It makes a really neat design. So here I was just taping down the dies. This is the paper pad I was using. This is from my stash. It is pretty old, I think. And once I take papers out, they always fall apart. So I just put a rubber band on them. And then that craft cardstock is actually Lawn Fawn craft cardstock, which is nice. It's really thick. I cut that tag and then I ran it through with a Fun Stampers Journey embossing folder through my die cut machine to put that really cool pattern on there. And then here I'm stamping the sentiment. This came from the same Catherine Pooler set. And I first pulled out this ink from Amuse Studio. It's old, but it's a gray, and it just wasn't dark enough. So then I used this gray from. I want to say that was a Pink and Main, and then I went over it with the VersaFine or Versamark ink so that I could make sure it was going to be wet enough to emboss, and I just embossed it in clear. That way I got gray embossing without gray embossing powder. It was kind of nice. I mean, I didn't want black. There wasn't any other black on this card, so I didn't want that harsh black line, that you would get if I used black ink. So here I just trimmed it down to a little rectangle, and I made sure I got it nice and tight to the sentiment there. And here I kind of knew how I wanted this. Here's all them flowers that I did, and I just kind of started putting them together to see how this was going to end up. Now I chose these colors because of this paper, but that orange is definitely way brighter than the orange in the paper. I think it still looks fine. I could have probably toned it down and second generation stamped it maybe. I don't know. It was okay. So I put a little foam tape on the sentiment square, and then I have this, I think it's by Color Box, like chalk ink. It came in I don't even know, stamping, scrapping for less, something. Anyway, I went over that tag so that I would bring out the texture. Pulled out a piece of ribbon and twine from my stash, um, and then I started putting this card front together. I absolutely love that pattern paper. It's so pretty. So here I was like, well, I have to punch a hole. So I have a leather punch. I don't know where my hole punch is, so I just used my leather punch. It worked fine. And then I weaved this ribbon through and tied it with the twine. That's something that everybody used to do. That and like giant bows on cards. I don't know. This was like a throwback card for me. I definitely uh, used some older techniques or some things that I don't often reach for. So here I was just making sure that I had all this foliage kind of nicely placed. And that one orange flower, I did put my reverse tweezers on there to hold it down because I was only gluing down the very edge of each of those pieces of foliage, and I wanted to make sure that that flower would be adhered nicely. So there I was just filling in the background, making sure that around that sentiment I would have a really nice floral display. And I was tucking in the aqua colored leaves that I made. And then I was going to take a little of that foam tape off, but I decided against it. And I had these little tiny aqua flowers too. I kind of wish I would have stamped a couple more of them and inserted that color in a couple other spots. But I mean, in the end, it did turn out fine. I really do like it. So, I mean, I guess making it over, I would have changed some things, but I don't need to make it over because I like it. So I pulled out those Stampin' Up! Pearls. Those are definitely a stash item. I've had them forever. I have this one little Unity stamp that I always add the pearls to. I did use that same brown ink to go around my sentiment just to edge it, and added some liquid adhesive to my foam tape just to make sure that it was going to adhere to all them different layers. And then I added a few of these little tiny pearls around the bouquet or around the foliage. I don't know exactly what word you would use because it's kind of both. And then I used quite a few of them. They're tiny. I've had them forever. I really only used them with that one image. And then I used this shimmer pen on like all of the colored stamping. First I did all the foliage. I wanted to make sure it had some really cool details. And I really liked it. Thought it was pretty. Oh, maybe I chose not to do the flowers. And then I adhered that to the card base. I don't know about you, I always end up having a little bit I need to trim off, and it's just not worth it for me to put in my trimmer because I don't always get it right. Did you know that you can color things like pearls with your Copic markers so that they match? See, as I was putting that together, I realized the centers on the flowers in the background were brown, and the ones on the in the bouquet were white. So I changed that. Anyway, here are some still shots of the card. I'd love to hear what you think, what's your favorite part, and if you feel like you could stretch your supplies a little bit. On your screen now, you'll see another video in case you'd like to continue watching. Thanks for stopping by.